Hi everyone, welcome to Paul's Mental Health Diaries. I'm Paul. Today we've got with us Aniket, my first guest, Carlos, who's going to be like a backup, and Dion's going to be our recording. I like the way you laughed there, Carlos, when I said backup.
Yeah, I like being the backup.
Okay, so in this episode, I'll be joined by a guest to explore their journey and discuss the nature of their work and experiences that shaped them. To delve into their unique views of mental well-being and how they prioritize in their daily lives. So, for me personally, personal connection is what really matters. Talking about what we go through and realizing we're not alone can make such a difference. So, my first guest, Aniket. Say hi.
Hi, Paul. Thank you for having me. So, a bit about myself.
Yeah.
I'm Aniket. I'm a counselling psychologist based in North Wales. I work with young people and adults. Not just that, I work with the whole population. I help them how to understand their thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and how they shape one another with CBT and things like that.
Okay. So, something I'm always going to ask my guests is, how's your week been?
My week's just started actually, so hopefully it still goes the way I presume it to go. A bit busy. I'll try and make some time for myself because I really like this statement that if you're a psychologist or if you're into mental health, self-care is about competence. It's not luxury. So I quite really like that.
If you were to, and something that's quite interesting now to hear from a psychologist, how would you rate your mental health?
If I were to rate my own mental health, I'd probably say 8.
Okay.
Not because life's perfect, but because I practice what I teach, checking with myself, exercising, connecting with friends. You have to take time for yourself because remember, you can't pour from an empty cup. So for those who are quite doing everything by themselves, try and take some time back.
Tell me how you do keep that in check.
Sorry?
Tell me how you do keep that in check. What do you do for self-care?
Music. That's very, very very good and something I've done for a lot of years. I play piano as well. Oftentimes when I go for long drives, having a good phone call with family, that always works, especially with my family being quite far away. So doing a nice video call, just getting that boost of happy hormones, dopamine, oxytocin flowing through my body, that feels really good. So yeah, that's the way I check in with myself.
Good. Okay, before we get to know your insights on mental health and well-being, tell us how you got into psychology and what made you passionate about it.
So I've always been curious about how people feel and behave the way they do. And growing up in India, emotional conversations were wrapped in stories and humor. This was a form of self-regulation that even later when I started learning a bit more about academia side of psychology, James Gross says something pretty similar that it's actually a part of emotional regulation. The more you connect with the people of your culture, the more you connect with people that you feel connected to, it forms the basis, the foundation of your emotional regulation. And when I moved to Wales, I recognized the same thing: community, banter, family loyalty. They're pretty much universal, and I really found a bit of home with these traits that I found in Wales as well.
I love that you got that from Wales. It is a banter place, and we love being banterish, especially round table.
Yeah.
Okay. Was there a moment in your life when, maybe in childhood, school, or even or early career, that sparked your curiosity about the mind and human behaviour?
I don't think there was a single eureka or aha moment, but I think there was a series of them. My interest deepened when I saw friends and families struggle without understanding what was happening to them. And I believe that studying psychology or studying the scientific or the academic output of that gave me a language and gave me a way to understand it. And as I'm someone from a scientific outlook on life, I like knowing how things work. And this was my foray into the field of mental health. So I would not say there was necessarily one moment that changed everything, but each moment I had just made the previous one more connected and made it more decisive for me to really go ahead and be a part of the field that I'm very happy to be in as a career as well.
Sounds good, because you like the fact that it's connecting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It all connects to the neuroscience. I find very interesting as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
One, I don't know how people will take this, but there is something called as neuroplasticity, and basically this is a John Hebbian way of thinking, but he proposes that the more you do something, now in layman languages we call that muscle memory, for things that we do almost out of habit, but the same things applies to mental health as well. The more you do something constantly, consistently, with discipline, the more output you get from it that lasts longer, because there's a saying that neurons that fire together wire together. So even the knowledge of what you want to do mindfully actually changes how it makes you feel about it. So that just blew my mind when I first read about the theory. The more I did research on that, it started making sense of so many things that people do without taking a moment to realize whether it's something they're doing purposefully or just succumbing to conformity. So I quite really like that.
Okay. What's something people might not realize about what it's like to work in this field and if a psychologist?
That psychologists aren't perfectly balanced.
Yeah.
This work can be emotionally demanding. You're often sitting with people in their hardest and their most vulnerable moments, and to be there, fully present, fully being there for them, it takes efforts, it takes training, it takes time, and it takes empathy. Healing happens through safe relations, and that includes us too as well. So for me, I would say that supervision and peer support are our secure base. They help us, they ground us. You need to have good pro-social, sustainable social support. I've got a best friend whom I game at least 2 to 3 times with. We don't really game for the sake of playing. It's our avenue to talk about a week while we're doing something. It could have been in person, but now since we're in different countries, playing some multiplayer games gives us the ability to use that as a background, almost like an ambient noise, while we discuss something that's quite honest, quite vulnerable, and fair play. I mean, I've known him for 13 years now, so we don't really need to sit with an agenda, but it just flows quite naturally.
Yeah.
So we get stressed, we get all the emotions that our patients, our clients feel, we go through them, and we seek help for that with our supervisors, we seek help with our therapists. It's a never-ending cycle. Our therapists have therapists, and our supervisors have supervisors, and they have supervisors, so it's a very circular output.
Yeah. What came to mind then when you said about, when psychology, you are human as well,
Yeah.
and when a client can come in, do you ever get a client that can go, fix me then?
Yeah, sometimes
Yeah.
that happens because, and again, I understand because they have had experiences where they've asked people for help everywhere and they've not gotten it.
Yeah.
So when they see us as beacons of hope,
Yeah.
they think like, oh, this person can help me. Now, they may use different languages, fix me, help me, but I understand what it all means. A chance to feel like themselves again. So I'm quite never taken aback if someone approaches me in a social gathering or when I'm at parties and like, oh, you're a psychologist, and well, I have this problem. I never say, "Oh well, we're at a party. Let's not discuss." I'll say, "Okay, let's talk about that later on, or let's if you want to take a walk," because I know it. They're looking for ways for someone to help. So it's not a planned thing. They see someone, they're like, "Oh, this person might be able to help me. I've tried everything else. I've exhausted all avenues. Maybe this is one chance that I shouldn't lose." So there have been people who've said, "Can you fix me?" Or "I'm beyond fixing." The first thing I have to tell them is, "I'm not going to help because there's nothing to fix. They're not broken in the first place. I'll help them to get to where they are, but I'm not going to redesign them. They don't need redesigning. They're good the way they are." Because think about it. However old they must be, they've still made it so far without me. So my existence in their life should be an addition, not a subtraction. So they've been doing fine. I help them recognize that, because people, when they're quite vulnerable, get into this tunnel vision where they seldom get positive feedback from anyone else in the first place, nor do they seek it out. But even when they get it, they're so quite mired in self-doubt and self-criticism that's not really positive, that's not really made for growth, but for keeping them down in the dumps, as I say. So my first job is to bring them out of it, to validate that they are fine. I'll help them get to where they want, but it's not going to be fixing. It's going to be them realizing the potential.
Yeah. I like that. Any moments of your career that's really stayed with you?
Oh, so what was that?
Any of your moments of your career that has really stayed with you? Say with a good client.
There've been several. I've been in the field for almost 10 years now, so there have been so many ones. That the one that stuck to me was similar to what I was just talking about. The client said, Can you fix me?" And it took time for me to tell them,
Yeah.
"You're not broken.
Yeah.
I'll still help you, but first we'll need to work on emotional regulation. You need to work on self acceptance. It's not something that'll come with people believing in you. It starts with you. To get to a point where you start believing that whatever I am doing right now, that's enough. I can get better from here. I can grow from this." If that makes sense.
Yeah. Because being in a council, going to do counselling is growing. It's taking that step.
Yeah.
To get in a
The
better.
very fact, yeah, absolutely, the very fact that they've made the conversation, the fact that they even broached the subject, that's courageous.
Yeah.
Because it's quite easy to not do that, to stay in the same comfort of not speaking, of not wanting to be spoken to as well. So the very fact that they're making that approach, I think that's something that I help them realize that that's quite courageous.
Good. If you could go back to your younger self, one
Yeah.
piece of advice about mental health, what would it be?
Learn about it.
Yeah.
Because quite often what I feel a bit saddened, I lament about this fact that psychoeducation is not taught that much in schools, in the way that I wish it was taught, because quite later in life do people start realizing that, oh, I should have gotten help for that, or, oh, that happened and I never thought it affected me so much, but it's triggering me now. But I only hoped if there was some form of help available in terms of making them aware of the signs of triggers, interventions that can help them with that. And kids, trust me, face a myriad number of issues, not just mental health issues, things that happen in school as well. You got bullying, you got body dysmorphia, you got n number of issues.
You've got society.
You got society.
Yeah.
And
You got
d-
TikTok.
you got
social
TikTok, you got
media.
social media, you
Yeah.
got social media validation.
Yeah.
You've got, if you're from a different culture, the cultural assimilation. There's so many things that orbit a child's life, but because somehow we think, oh, they're just in school, so the life must only have school-related issues. But there's so many things that happen in their orbit that people don't really take moments to notice.
It would be good to actually have that in the school.
Yeah, I'm glad that there are several things I know that are happening. So I'm not going to really slag off on those attempts, but I just wish there was built into the curriculum. It was built into how to be aware of your mental health, how to take safeguarding steps for your mental health. What can you do?
Yeah.
Basic things. You start them off quite young, so by the time they are a full-grown adult, they know, because it works with everything else that's quite physical. You're told to get vaccines, you're told to exercise, you're told what to do, exercise on which day, you do legs on one day, you do chest on another day, but there's no schedule for mental health, and I wish it was there.
It would be good to have that in the class,
Yeah.
because I mean, to learn about it,
Mhm.
it's become so. There's become so awareness of it these days now. There needs to be more,
Yeah.
but I think some people are still quite stay back with it, especially men.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it would be good to just. I think further on down the line, it would be great to have in the school.
Yeah, absolutely, and I really agree with you about the men part. And I think one of the reasons why people and men still hesitate to talk about mental health, it's because of the innate fear, or the innate human feeling of being seen as weak. Because self-reliance is celebrated, especially among men, and many of us men grow up believing that if you're vulnerable or if you showcase that, you're weak, you're a failure. And if you think about an evolutionary perspective, cooperation and emotional sharing actually kept our species alive. The most manly thing you can really do is talk about how you feel, seek help, seek guidance. But be it societal norms that we have helped create, we are the ones who are getting the brunt end of the stick for that. So it doesn't really help us. So I've got loads of patients over the years, especially men, who struggled to talk about something because they felt they'd be judged, because they didn't feel comfortable doing in front of another man, because they felt that if they were to share, they wouldn't know what to do, because they saw themselves as protectors. They saw themselves as someone who can't be seen as weak in front of their children, in front of their parents,
Yeah.
in front of their partners. And the only respite that they chose was to suffer in silence. How sad is that?
All right, we've talked about a bit about your journey into psychology now, and I think that leads nicely into something I like to ask our guest: understanding mental health. What does mental health mean to you in simple terms?
I see mental health as emotional flexibility. So simply put, I think it's more of the ability to move between states without getting stuck. It's not about being happy all the time. It's about how we regulate our emotions, how we bounce back from stress, how we stay connected to others. It's the psychological equivalent of fitness, as I said. You don't go to the gym and declare yourself fit on one day. You do it consistently. It's a practice. Think of them as constructed experiences, as psychologist Lisa Fieldman calls emotions. They're not fixed. We can influence them. We can influence the way we feel. It's closer to resilience. It's closer to adaptability. That's what mental health means for me. It's somewhere between psychoeducation and self-awareness and resilience.
Why do you still think people hesitate to talk about mental health and reach out for help?
Because
Yeah.
they've got bad experience in the past.
Yeah.
They don't know where to start. There is lack of information outside. When they do, they've not gotten... and again, there's a reason why this field is quite heavily regulated. Psychologist is a protected title in the UK. So you can't call yourself a psychologist without getting those accreditations. Quite often, they get help from people who are not accredited to get help, to give help in the first place. The other hesitation comes from the social stigma, the taboo. It's still, oh, you're going to a psychologist, oh, you're going to a therapist, must be something really wrong with you. And I've got so many people, again, there's such a cultural instance to it as well. I can speak with some level of awareness about my own culture, where going to a psychologist is, you'll be branded as, oh, this person must be institutionalized. This person may not be fit to live in society because he's going to a psychologist, because why else would he be? I mean, yes, in metro cities, in big cities, it's now changing, especially with the new generations making it more normalized. But by and large, I think there's this universal taboo and stigma of wanting to get help for. And I always found that quite ridiculous, of stigmatizing, of tabooing someone, of making someone feel bad for wanting and needing and getting help. You don't do that to someone with physical ailments. You don't say, I need to go to a dentist. Oh my God. This person is not fit to have teeth. Let's put a dentures in him. You don't do that. You don't make that person feel bad. We are like, oh God, that's very good. You're taking care of your health. Very nice. Imagine if somebody did that.
Why can't it be like that?
Good question.
Yeah.
I don't know why it can't be like that, because it's getting help for anything else that's wrong with your body or something that you want to make better about yourself. But for some reason, I think one of the big reasons for why it's like that is just the common misconceptions and lack of awareness about what it means to go to a therapist, or the need for trauma. And again, there is this slight divide or slight rift, I would say, between the academic side of understanding things and how a layman wants to communicate. I think the language needs to be a bit more accessible, which is what I do at TheraCare as well. I make the language more lucid and easy to express, because sure, I can't expect my patients to quote the exact diagnosis. That's my job. I can't expect them to have a professional psychological lingo about what's wrong with them. But what I can do is I can help create a language that acts as a bridge. So when they communicate, I know what's going on with them. And in return, I can help them access that help that they need. Because from a biological, from a neurobiological perspective, there is so many things that you can actually see in terms of trauma response. If they've seen when they've used functional magnetic resonance imaging machines of how brains with trauma react. But a layman doesn't need to know that. A layman doesn't need to use that while communicating to a therapist.
I'd just like to chip in on that as well, actually. So, Paul, you asked, why do you think people don't take more self-care in their own mental health? And I remember reading a book by a psychologist called Jordan Peterson called The 12 Rules to Life. Some of you may be familiar with it. And in one of those rules, he talks about taking your own medicine. This could be, physical medicine or mental health support when it comes to medicine. But, he makes the analogy, if you take your pet to the vet and you get given a round of medication for your pet, you will religiously make sure that that pet gets that medication because you love that pet. And you don't want any harm to come to that pet of yours. You love your cat, you love your dog, you love whatever. But we don't do it the same with medication or our own mental health. We don't actually... Why do we not? Do we not love ourselves as much as we love our own pets and stuff in our family? Why do we take that for granted when we get given a round of medication or when we're told some professional advice from a psychologist. You know, we need to take our own medicine, and we need to listen to professional help when we need it. And that sort of analogy for me was a sort of a pin drop going, yeah, I'm exactly the same. You know, I get given a round of antibiotics. I feel better after 3 or 4 days. I scrap the last 4 days. I don't take all 7 days, you know?
I forget all the time when it comes to antibiotics.
Well, it's not even me forgetting. It's me thinking, oh, I feel better now. I'm not going to take any more. It's like, oh.
But then it can take a cycle to come back sometimes, and a virus. Antibiotics can do that. You have to take the full cycle for the virus not to come back.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's my 2 pence.
Really good point.
Yeah, and I think the reason for that is we are very kind to others, but we are seldom kind to ourselves. We are rarely severely critical of others, but we judge ourselves quite harshly. And I think that acts as a deterrent in trying to continue seeking mental health help. So if you're asking for why there is hesitancy, this umbrella of reasons exist in our domain, in our orbit, which all contribute quite fairly and consistently in stopping us and getting the help that we need and deserve.
How can friends and family be the best support for someone who's going through a tough time?
Understand them. Why are they seeking help? Talk to them. Be there for them. Ask questions. PACE is a very, very, very good approach. Playfulness, acceptance, curiosity, and empathy. It's by Dan Hughes, and I think you can use that approach with literally anyone in your lives. It could be with your friends, it could be with your family. Be curious. Ask them from a place of understanding, not judgment. And let that because again, you might say, oh, I'm not judging of my friend, I'm not judging of my partner, I'm not judging of my parent. When you are vulnerable, when you're already on edge, when your hypervigilance has already kicked in, every statement can feel like judgment. Despite your best efforts, it can come across as judgmental. What can you do about that? Call it out. Preface it by saying, what I might say may sound judgmental, but I assure you it's not. It may come across as rude, but I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to understand how to be best there for you. When in doubt, let the person guide you. I've done that innumerable times in therapy. Sometimes I'm like, I empathize, but I really can't truly understand what you must have been through. Could you help me understand a bit more? Because you can get very, very close to what the person has been through. You can't really feel the full intensity of it because you've not gone through the same thing. And it'd be quite insulting to pretend otherwise. So just be open and honest. People who are struggling can see that quite easily when you're being genuine, when you're being honest, when you are being empathetic, when you're trying to be there in the same space that they are and trying to meet them where they are. They can see that very, very, very easily.
What time are we on, Carlos, through the episode? Well, we talked about a bit about... Well, I think we got everything sorted in, but I'm going to bring in something that I want to bring into the episodes quite a bit because I want to talk about my topic, and I've got a psychologist in, so I wanted to bring this in personally. I've trained to be a counsellor. I got to level 4, and through level 4 was COVID time, and it got too hard studying at home, trying to find a agency that was gonna. I think I tried looking at Brighter Futures in Wrexham.
Yeah.
I'd try and find an agency who I could get my hours in with. What I wanted to say was the difference between counselling and psychologists. Psychology, how could you I think there was differences there because counselling always focused on the person-centered theory, and you always had to go on what the client was telling you, not how to study their brain or anything like that. So tell me a bit more. Can you?
I think I've got the best of both worlds because my first master's was in clinical and the second was in counselling. So I got to see the both sides of it. Excuse me. Counselling and psychology share the same heart, I believe, but different toolkits in a way. So counselling leans on, as you said, a bit more Carl Rogers person-centered. So empathy, congruence, and conditional positive regard. While the clinical aspect of psychology adds structured methods like CBT, DBT, I am mindfulness-based CBT, and you can't see. But here's the thing: you can't CBT someone into feeling safe. They have to feel heard first. Empathy is the doorway that lets evidence-based work actually work. So it's quite, and it's also quite evidenced in polyvagal theory as well. You have to feel safe enough for you to then start being vulnerable. I can't discuss something quite important if that person is already operating from a heightened emotional state. So I think in a way they quite marry each other quite well, depending on how much you harness it. So as a practitioner, counseling psychologist, I get the privilege and the opportunity to use both sides, both domains, the clinical aspect and the counseling aspect as well.
Do you think it should be learned together then?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One can't exist without. It's almost like two sides of the same coin. They can't exist without each other. They can't exist in vacuum.
My tutor was, oh no, we're not a psychologist. We're just counsellors. And it was, they tried to differentiate it quite a bit.
Yeah.
And it should be learned the same.
It's very hard to divorce the two, really. If you genuinely want the client to help the client, I think understanding from all holistic perspective is a very, very good way to go on about it. So that's why we call it the biopsychosocial model of therapy. So you look at the biological aspect, you look at the psychological aspect, and you look at the social aspect.
I know it's keeping professional in your job, but do you ever feel like as if your clients have become friends, or do you like close people too?
No, not really, because I maintain that distinction
Boundary.
quite well and quite rigidly, and this is something that's covered in the first session, because there is something that's quite imminent in therapy, and that's transference and countertransference. They will, because of them being in a vulnerable state when they approach therapy, it's quite easy for them to start thinking of me as a friend, someone that they really get help from, someone who understands them. But I have to maintain the professional boundary to help them better. I'm very friendly, I'm very empathetic, but I'm not the friend. Because if the lines get blurred, I can't maintain my ethics, my boundaries, my professionalism. So for the greater good, I have to maintain that distinction.
Okay, I know psychology has a different kind of foundation. It's more structured, more evidence-based in some ways, but both approaches aim for the same thing, to help people understand themselves better. I find that balance really interesting. From your perspective as a psychologist, how do you see the difference between counsellors and psychologists? Are there parts where they overlap?
I think they do overlap. I think empathy is a common thing in both. I think it's the shared heartbeat of counselling and psychology. The techniques differ, sure, but without empathy, none of that really works. And I think Carl Rogers is boring a bit from counselling now. He focused on co-conditions for change, and decades of outcome research has actually backed it. So That's what I talked about, having that counseling aspect and then the clinical aspect to back it up, to make it more evidence-based. So in CBT or DBT, which is dialectical behavior therapy, empathy still exists. It just takes on a different form. It's expressed through validation, a bit more attunement, a bit more collaboration. You're still saying, I see you for who you are. But you're also adding, okay, I see you, but now let's understand how your brain and behavior got here. So empathy is a constant. The tools are just the accent.
Okay, so now we go on to a guest topic of what you wanted to bring into this episode. Aniket, go ahead.
Whew, putting me on a spot. So I would say it'll be definitely around emotional regulation and the everyday mind. The reason for that is very simple. I'm very fascinated by emotional regulation, essentially how we understand, modulate, and express emotion. Basically, it's our ability to understand, soothe, and respond to emotions rather than react to them. We often treat emotions like enemies, and that's a bit understandable, but we try and control them. But if you take time and you realize they're actually messages, if we listen to them, they guide us towards what matters. And on surface, it sounds very cliche, very pop psychology, new age thing, but it's actually not. There is a neural network that's continuously at work. Neuroscience shows that just naming an emotion reduces its intensity in the amygdala, and that's your brain alarm system quieting down because you're now aware. You can then take necessary steps to mitigate it. Even simple awareness is biological intervention, so to speak, and that's why I love psychoeducation. That's why I love bringing things to people's awareness so much. Awareness itself is a neurological training, and isn't that brilliant? Knowledge literally rewires us, and I think as far as biochemistry goes, that's got to be the coolest thing, and the most easy to do thing that you can do. Culturally, I grew up where emotions were handled collectively and through family conversations, in shared meals, and a bit of humor when things got hard. And when I came to Wales, I felt the same community spirit. We might speak different languages, though in fairness, dwi'n dysgu dechrau newydd Cymraeg. I'm learning Welsh, slowly but surely. The emotional grammar is very similar or same. We're quite universal in the way we think, feel, and I quite like that idea of the fact that I can still be a part of this culture because I still feel and communicate the way you do, just different languages. Ultimately, emotional, and I think we come a full circle because you'd ask me something about fixing. And emotional regulation is not about fixing yourself. It's about learning to relate to your inner world with curiosity rather than harsh criticism. It's about creating space between feeling and reaction. And this is, I believe, where mindfulness meets neuroscience.
One thing I do want to add, that you don't think living in Wales has made you Welsh? Has it made you Welsh? Because it's made your heart Welsh.
I think so. I'm learning a language. But yeah, I would consider myself a bit of Welsh, yeah.
Well, now you speak it. I don't. And I'm Welsh.
Well, it's never too late to learn.
No, it is never too late. I agree.
It's a beautiful language.
It is. If I knew how to speak it. Beautiful place.
Beautiful place, beautiful people, beautiful language. That sums up Wales for me.
Yeah. Okay. All right. As our last topic now, something I like to bring in, something I like to explore. I am a proper movie buff, and I quite like music quite a lot. Music has really helped my mental health quite a lot when I'm struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, films that inspire me, I can really dive into. I really feel, oh, this has got a really nice turn. You know, stuff like films like Patch Adams. I, Robbie Williams has always been an inspirational actor,
Yeah.
no matter what he's been in. Patch Adams, Good Morning Vietnam. There's so many films that he's in. There was one where he was a psychiatrist. Good Will Hunting.
Good Will Hunting.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, he's inspirational. But a song, thinking of one now, Nickelback. What are you waiting for? That really is about just taking your chance.
Mm-hmm.
It's what are you waiting for? Are you waiting on a lightning strike? They say, to take your chance, take your leap, that leap of faith to, and that's one of the things that actually made me do the podcast in a way, because I always had this thing to be like, well, no, confidence has always struggled. I've always struggled with confidence. So yeah, that inspired me to do this podcast. So I asked the question on the guest, any song or film that inspires you?
If I have to go with a film, it'll be the Secret Life of Walter Mitty
With Ben Stiller.
with Ben Stiller. Yeah, and I think it captures that moment when fear meets possibility, which reminds me that mental health isn't about reducing pain; it's also about expanding life. Plus, the soundtrack's brilliant.
What soundtracks were on there? I was thinking of. Yeah. I
love
know.
that. I quite usually have the whole BGM, the background music soundtrack, as sort of like an ambient music when I'm driving, especially early in the mornings, and just taking the sceneries. So I really like that. And
What-
the scene, yeah.
Yeah, what scene sort of like inspires you the most?
I think there's a conversation towards the end between Walter Mitty and Sean O'Connell, who's a photographer, I think. They're on a mountain top, and they're watching this elusive snow leopard that Sean has been trying weeks to capture to get a perfect shot. And there's a scene where Walter is like right next to him. He's all quiet, and it's like, "Are you going to take it?" And Sean just looks at him and just says, "Sometimes I don't. If I like a moment, for me personally, I don't like to have the distraction of a camera. I just want to stay in it." And he's goes, and you can see Ben Stiller being a bit bewildered at, because they've moved heaven and earth to get that perfect shot. And for Sean to say, maybe I won't take a photo, and I'll just live in this moment. And he's quite dumbfounded. He's like, just do nothing, just stay in it. And he's like, yeah, just stay right in it, just in this moment. And maybe because I myself am a mindfulness-based CBT, or maybe because as I said, I lament the fact that these days we take hundreds of photos for memories, we convince ourselves, only for us to never view them again. I think I've got 3,000 photos in my phone that I've taken since the last couple of years, and I've not really taken time to scroll back and look at them. And
It would take a long time to scroll back on
it take a long time to
3,000.
scroll back, yeah. But sometimes I feel, do you remember those old Kodak cameras you put film in?
Yeah.
I think that was the best thing, because you got 12 or 24 shots,
Anything that's all right now.
and that's all. And you took every shot with decision, with purpose. You never clicked randomly because you were afraid of making, I've just lost one slot, I've lost one photo.
Yeah.
So you were quite purposeful with that. And all I would say is, do that in your real life as well. Be purposeful. Do something. Don't do something mindlessly. Do something mindfully. be present, look around you. So next time you're driving to work, for example, turn off that radio, turn off that music, and just observe your surroundings. I will guarantee you will notice something that you've never noticed before. Even if you use the same routine road every single time, you'll notice something new. Next time you're having a conversation with your partner or with your best friend, see them without distraction. You'll notice how their face crinkles when they laugh, a few wrinkles when they frown. And I'll go out on a limb and say that they'll appreciate you not being distracted and actually being present in the conversation and living the moment. I believe there are only finite amount of times that you're with your parents. We think of being with our friends for a long time, but there are only finite events in our general timeline. I would say make them count.
Good thought. Can you think of anything else with any films?
Not
songs?
really. I'm not a huge film or song buff like you, Paul. I sit in the car and I actually don't listen to music at all. Sometimes I'll listen to a podcast,
Dancing
but
Queen.
most of the time I'm just kind of in my own head thinking. I do watch a lot of films, but I've got them on while I'm doing other things in the house. I'm not there sat like watching them. I'm bad at remembering film titles and actor names. I just take so little notice of films. It's not something I enjoy.
Okay. All right. It's been really good. We've talked about a lot, haven't we? And that's about it now for this episode. Thank you for coming on.
You're very welcome, Paul. And if anyone listening wants to explore their well-being whilst having battled trauma, domestic violence, adverse childhood effects, or just want to seek support, both in personal relationships or even explore mental health issues in a grounded, evidence-based way, you can find more information, or you can just contact me on theracare.co.uk.
I was just about to bring that in. So we're not wrapping up, but I'm going to ask about your Theracare in Wrexham, right?
Yeah.
Just as a quick little note. Where do we find you?
It's online for now.
Okay, Theracare.
Theracare.co.uk.
This has been Paul's Mental Health Diaries. And yeah, thank you for coming along.
Thank you, Paul, for having me.